everybody. My name's Emma Duncan, and I'm the current president of the American Society for Bone and Mineral Research. Today, I'm talking with our chair for the 2026 annual scientific meeting of our society, being held in Boston, as you know, on the 9th to the 12th of October. In a week or so, we're going to release another video, this time with a conversation with Professor Yumi Ree, our clinical chair, and Professor Martina Rauner, our basic chair. But today, it's my privilege to talk with Professor Joe Staines, who's this year's overall chair for the program. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you, Emma.
Today, we might talk about some of the high-level decisions that we took in planning this year's meeting. So there were decisions we made about education, there was decisions we made about conference organisation, and there were decisions that we made about career development and community. So Joe, can I ask you to talk about some of the educational changes that we've made for this year's meeting?
Sure. We tried really hard to look through what prior planning committees had done, as well as work with our program planning committees in order to develop what we hope will be an innovative and exciting meeting. One of the things we decided to do was to add in a Bone Biology 101. This is sort of a primer on the fundamentals of bone physiology, where we're going to have experts from the field educating people on the very first day of the meeting. We thought this would be a nice opportunity for people that are either new to the field or had been away from the field for a while, or trainees who really want to brush up on the cutting edge developments that are happening in the field. In addition, we decided to add a highlights of the year, which Michael Mondstadt will be presenting. This will complement the highlights of the annual meeting, which is always really popular each year. And this year we have Joy Wu and Fan Xing Wang presenting those highlights. So we thought that'd be a nice bookend at the beginning and the end of the meeting to sort of orient people, as well as wrap up the fantastic things that the society has done over the year.
Absolutely. And in between those two bookends, there's going to be a host of symposia and a host of Meet the Professors. And in our next video, we'll talk a little bit more about how we went about selecting those and some of the changes that we did and get down into a bit more of the weeds around those. But from an organisational point of view, when we were thinking about putting this together, you've already mentioned, Joe, in terms of putting together the basic Bone 101 meeting, this was something you worked very closely with the Educational Committee, and we worked with a number of the committees of the Society, for example, the Educational Committee, for example, the Early Stage Investigator Committee, and so forth and so on. But we also did an organisational change to help support both our basic chairperson and our clinical chairperson and yourself, in that instead of this being just the chairpersons making decisions in isolation, we had about 8 to 10 individuals who supported each of our chairpersons. And this was really helpful when it came to discussions about symposia and being able to bounce ideas around quite a broad circle. And then you had, and that was something that I know that Martina and Yumi worked with, not just for symposia, but also helping with chairpersons and MTPs as well. But you also had a brains trust of senior people as well, sort of helping us to bounce ideas around as well, which I think hopefully will mean that there was a lot of reflectiveness and also a lot of creativity that we were able to tap more broadly than just the four of us sort of sitting around and scratching our heads.
Yeah, I think one of my biggest fears taking on this role is that I didn't want my own individual biases or perspectives to dramatically influence the content of the meeting. I know what I know, but I also know there's a lot of the field I'm not terribly familiar with or maybe not have expertise. So I wanted to make sure we brought in enough people that we'd have a really intentional, broad perspective of scientific ideas at this meeting. And along those lines, we put forth a lot of effort to make sure we could platform as many members of our society as possible in this meeting, from the oral sessions to the focus on mid-career speakers. We have other initiatives, which we'll talk about in more detail as well. We wanted to make sure this was a place that all of our members would have a chance to share their science.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And we've also spent a lot of time thinking about career development as well, at all stages as well. And, perhaps you might like to talk about some of the ideas that we're going to be doing with respect to career development and community development at this year's meeting.
Right. I mean, one idea that I had, it actually stems from a conversation I had with a junior faculty at the Snowmass meeting, was having an emerging labs meet the professor. So people who are either setting up their lab for the first time or got their first award and want to recruit, we wanted to give them a platform where in the format of a Meet the Professors, multiple professors could stand up there and talk about what their lab has to offer and what directions their lab are going in order to be able to recruit talented scientists to join their group. So we work with the ESI subcommittee to try to develop this Emerging Labs Meet the Professors. I actually think we might have 2 Emerging Labs Meet the Professors. The ESI committee also on the career development track is doing their very popular job panel again this year, the Multiverse of Careers in Science, where we're going to have a really packed room full of people offering perspectives in things, not only academic research, but also government service, science policy, and industry, so that our members get an opportunity to see what kind of career opportunities exist for them.
Yeah, and I know that we also have in the meeting a special section which is on provocative ideas and which will be, perhaps a little bit left field to help people come and sort of think, a little bit outside of the box. And we also have an innovation pitch session, which is our executive director of ASBMR, Judy Keane, has really piloted and is driving to bring that in as well. Again, to make sure that we have discussions not just amongst ourselves, but also with our industry partners and with other people who are working in the bone field in technologies and in other innovative solutions, which may be useful from a research or from a clinical perspective too. We also have this year, for the first time ever, we've got a public-facing session, which could either be a great success or not. We'll find out. But hopefully, this is something that many members of the society will get benefit about as well, where we've chosen 3 topics which we hope will have broad community interest: how to talk about osteoporosis with your doctor, the role of exercise and bone health, and also the relationship between menopause and bone health, which we think will really speak to certainly it speaks to our society members broadly, but also speaks to the community and people who are interested in bone. So please, 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 bring your family, bring your friends, tell your colleagues, come along yourself. We're really hoping that this becomes a way of developing partnership with community, which is so important for our science going forwards and for clinical care of the community. And we've got a number of special celebrations as well, this year being a special anniversary.
Yeah, this year we'll mark the 40th anniversary of the JBMR journal. And so each day of the meeting, we're going to have a little celebration honoring the legacy of the Society's main journal.
Yeah, and I think people will be, it's really astonishing to go back and see by decade, the really extraordinary papers that were coming out over the time. So I'm hoping that people will find that to be both educational and celebratory as well. And of course, we will be celebrating White Sneakers, and we have a run on the Sunday morning. So I think it's going to be a time of great educational and scientific presentation. I think the organisation has helped us to get breadth of ideas, but also to try and achieve breadth of exposure of our science, of our members. And then from a career and community point of view, I think there'll be something for everybody to enjoy as they go along. So I suppose the very last thing to say is, when is the early bird deadline? When should people register by to get the best rates? And I believe that that's the 17th of July. So now is the time to be able to go into the website, and if you haven't done so already, register to come to this year's ASBMR. We look forward to seeing you there.